Ladies, gentlemen, please take your seats. The spotlight is about to begin. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mystery Matt, and you're listening to the Mystery Matt Spotlight Podcast. This evening, we are kind of carrying on a little mini-series that we started back when we decided we were going to do the fake death of Michael Jackson. This evening, we are doing the fake death of Elvis Presley. Willow.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm joined by Greg. Sarah's sitting in, and we have a in-studio audience member as well, so everything's good all around. How's everybody tonight? Everybody paying attention? No?
I'm doing good.
Sarah's on her phone. She's playing Tetris.
No, actually, I was responding to a friend of mine's post about his son, and he's now cancer-free. So.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
Yes.
The one I know?
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yes, I'm very grateful for that.
Whether or not you believe or not, thank whatever power you believe in.
Exactly.
There you go.
Good news is good news, right? So congratulations to them.
Yeah.
Glad they got it all. Now he's on the road to recovery.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I was wondering there for a bit. And, nobody knows who we're talking about because we haven't posted about it at all. But that's because
not our business.
Yeah, it's not our business, and we don't just, go around looking for pity, I guess. Hi, Greg.
Hey.
So, I heard Elvis didn't actually die.
Yes, that's true.
It's actually true,
that's
or the
what
theory
that's what the hearsay is. Everyone thinks that he faked his death. Allegedly. Yes. Not everyone though. I mean, only 4% of Americans really do think of that. If I was looking at polls and
really only 4%.
Yeah, really. That's it. But the rest of Americans think he died when he died. But I think we should just talk a little bit about him first, or do you just want to go into the conspiracy? Because I have a little bit of history about him.
Well, some people won't know. What? I don't see it at all.
On the cord, back here. There you go. You didn't fucking kill it.
No, I don't know where it went either.
Yeah.
Find him later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should probably explain who Elvis Presley is, especially if we have some younger listeners.
Yeah, exactly, because they probably heard of the guy, but they probably don't really know some history about him, right? So
yeah, have at her.
Cool. All right. So Elvis Aaron Presley was born on January 8th, 1935. And he passed away on August 16th, 1977. But we're going to get back to his name because that plays a big focal point in some of the conspiracies. So we'll get back to that. He was an American singer and actor. He was also known as the King of Rock and Roll. And he still is probably still the King of Rock and Roll. He was probably, you could compare him to the Beatles. Both of them are right up there. Yeah. You don't agree?
No.
Well, and then you got the Michael Jackson, who was the King of Pop or the Prince of Pop or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Prince was, he would have to be the Prince of Pop because that's kind of how that works. Self-proclaimed Prince of Pop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think Elvis is right up there with some of the other singers that are very popular.
Oh, yeah. He was one of the highest ever.
Yeah, I'm just saying that he was up there.
I'm not going to say he's bigger than the Beatles. I will say, yes, he's up there in terms of legend. But he also inspired a lot of the Beatles stuff, too. So you got to give him his props for that. For me, though, I'm much more of a Beatles fan than I am Elvis Presley. So for me, Beatles are the top notch. That's the bar. But yes, if it wasn't for Elvis, we may not have
But then
Beatles.
if you talk to Carly, the one lady we've had on the podcast before, she would say, no, Elvis beats the Beatles.
Yes, because she's huge on Elvis. Actually, why didn't we get her on this one?
I don't know.
She was probably working.
You didn't even call her.
I know I didn't. Sorry, Carly.
All right, so back to a little bit about Elvis. He was born in Mississippi.
MISSISSIPPI for anybody who wanted to know.
Yes. And then when he was 13 years old, his family moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where he started to get his roots into like music and everything, because that's where everyone likes to play music, is Tennessee. Yeah. And basically he started his music career in 1954 at Sun Records. Presley's music was known as energized interpretation of songs and sexuality provocative performance, and combined with the singular patient mix of influence of across color lines during the transformation in race relations.
Can you imagine what they'd go through if, like, they had insane clown posse back then?
Oh, yeah.
They would lose their freaking mind. What did he say? Oh, my God. Why are they dressed like clowns? Well, if we're talking about stealing black music, because that's what Elvis Presley was accused of, right?
Yeah.
Taking the soul and some blues rhythms and speeding them up, creating a rock and roll like sound with some of these older songs. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what he was known for. And he brought in both great success and controversy. Presley's first single was called Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
And it was released in January 1956. Presley also did some acting alongside his singing. He would star in the movie Love Me Tender. That was one of his first movies that he did. No, it wasn't a porn.
No, but what about Kissing Cousins?
Kissing Cousins? Oh, no.
Did you not look that one up?
No.
Elvis Presley was in a movie called Kissing Cousins.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I might have once upon a time, but I'm into older movies. I watch a lot of Mystery Science Theater, so they make fun of those kind of things. Like,
okay. Yeah.
Bash at the Beach and,
Okay. So not only was he an actor and singer, he was also drafted in the Army in 1958, mainly because a lot of people were at that time. And so he had to put on hold for about 2 years his music career and acting career so he can be part of the war, basically. And then after that, he had to basically relaunch his singing career. And he did more movies as well. And it just got bigger and bigger for him. A couple other movies that he was in was Jailhouse Rock and Blue Hawaii and Viva Las Vegas. There's a few others of his big...
Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. Presley is one of the most best-selling artists of all time. It is estimated that he has sold around 500 million copies of his records worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine how much how much his estate is worth, right? Yeah.
You should see how much I was selling 22 cases of milk on my farming game for. It's ridiculous.
I imagine, especially right now, times are tough, And he won 3 Grammys and became a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys at the age of 36. That's pretty young.
But he had already done so much, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I bet you, okay, so like, I don't want to sound like a stickler, but I bet because of who he was when he joined the military, he was probably in one of the least dangerous, cushy kind of, like, he didn't see a trench.
Right.
He never... He might have had to duck a grenade here and there, but he wasn't in, like, a front line, I wouldn't think.
They probably have him, like, do, like, research. Like, how they have, like...
Yeah.
He wasn't probably on the lines or anything like that.
And then I heard a rumor that he ended up joining, like, the CIA or something like that.
We're getting into that.
Greg. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
That's all in here. Don't worry. We'll get to that.
Oh, boy.
That's when it turns really interesting in that part. He also holds a lot of records for like most albums and stuff like that as well. He has like a RIAA certified gold and platinum albums as well. also, anytime Elvis performed, a lot of the teenage girls would go so insane for him, and they would like faint. And
the only other time we saw that in human history was the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only other time
you could compare him to the Beatles. Well, sort of. Yeah, that way, definitely. And a lot of the times, the concerts would basically break out into riots sometimes too, because he was just so controversial, right? And he would perform. I remember watching like a video of him performing live for the first time in front of like a whole bunch of people, and he was just like, just the way he was moving his hips and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
it was provocative for the time, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's what I mean. Like, you bring in, like, Insane Clown Posse where they're actually, like, sexual gestures and, you know, pretend jerk-off jizz throwing kind of things, and, like, people would lose their mind. You don't do things like that in public.
Elvis in his younger years was actually very good looking. So I could see why the girls would gravitate towards that. You know, he had that snarl, that smirk, the hair, the body.
Well, he
and then,
was
you're throwing your hips around and you're like, You know, but as he aged, he got kind of gross looking.
Well, how old was he when he died? Or
42.
42. Yeah. So that's 2 years older than me. Why did he look like such dog shit?
Well, because he was into drugs and basically drinking.
Drinking?
Yeah.
Don't do drugs. Stay in school.
Yeah, I mean, like, his health really deteriorated when the last few years of his life, like.
Wow.
Yeah. But they say that's, I mean, like, yeah, he did age and stuff like that, but we'll talk about his funeral too, because there was some controversy about that as well. Because there's a lot of controversial stuff about Elvis. Like, before he even allegedly faked his death. But, I mean, he's an interesting guy, that's for sure. Found out a whole bunch of stuff about him.
We're going to have to make t-shirts with the word allegedly on it, because we say it so often.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, I said. No. But to get back into a little bit more of his history, he did end up marrying someone. Her name was Priscilla, and they had a kid named Lisa Marie Presley.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And bonus, Lisa Marie Presley did end up marrying Michael Jackson.
There was a lot of controversy with that too, because it was interracial marriage at the time, and it was not as easy to get away with, I guess you could say.
That was in like the mid-90s, so
what?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
but you could get away with it more in the mid-90s.
Yeah, but I don't think Elvis was down for it.
It's hard to say because he wasn't around, so we can't really speak for the supposedly, allegedly not dead, possibly dead.
Not dead, possibly dead, could be dead, is not dead.
Yeah, that.
Allegedly?
Yes. So, Priscilla and Elvis married on May 1st, 1967, and their marriage lasted until 1973. So, but Lisa Marie was everything to Elvis. Like, he really loved her and really spoiled her a lot. And I think Priscilla was complaining about how much he like spoiled her and stuff like that. And obviously,
well, if you only have one child, that's kind of the way it goes, I find.
Yeah. So when the end of his marriage, his health was starting to decline a lot. He had overdosed twice during the year 1973, and he ended up in a coma for 3 days in his hotel room. The last 3 years of his life were really hard on him because he wasn't the same guy that was swooning like people, like the girls and stuff like that, because he got heavier and he just looked really bad.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah.
He just looked old and out of shape, and his performances weren't that great either because he ended up canceling some of them, or he would basically not get out of bed to go to them and stuff like that. Yeah, he couldn't
keep up with them anymore.
Yeah.
Not like Tina Turner, who was
still going 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, still going at 80. Did she pass recently? Yeah, she passed recently.
Allegedly.
Well, so far, I haven't heard anything about Tina Turner faking her death,
I don't think she would at 80.
Not at 80. You
No.
kind of stuck in there for the long run already, Kind of like Betty White.
So, the death of Elvis was on August 16th, 1977. He was supposed to go take a flight out of Memphis to Portland, but his current fiance, he did end up meeting more women after he broke up with Priscilla. Ginger Eldon found him unresponsive in his bathroom, and they tried to do CPR or whatever to revive him and stuff like that, and they took him to the hospital where they pronounced him dead.
Like
basically.
1977 CPR,
Yeah. So,
well, CPR is not going to help an aneurysm. I think that's what he died of. Wasn't he?
I thought it was a heart attack.
Wasn't he on the toilet?
Yeah.
I think it was an aneurysm.
it was actually cardiac arrest, they said. Yeah. But, I mean, they did that, like, the day after. They determined that it was a heart attack and it was an enlarged heart, but they also said that there was no drugs involved with it either. No, yeah, at the time. But then a few years later, they did, like, more testing and stuff like that, and they found that he had, like, 10 different types of drugs in him in his bloodstream at the time that he died.
Well, it was the 70s.
Yeah.
Chances are toxicology would have taken a lot longer than it does now. So they probably didn't even get the test results back until a couple years later. But also, even if they were to get the test results back, they're not going to announce that back in those days because it in itself is a controversy. You don't want the king of rock and roll to be dead because of freaking drugs, right?
Being full of, it's like, Elvis Presley found full of cocaine this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to say that kind of stuff to a, God-fearing public in the 90s.
Especially in the South, right?
Well, yeah, where Elvis is from.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember the brief, wink to Elvis Presley in the Forrest Gump movie?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it up because someone brought up the movie the other day, and it was like, oh, yeah, that was a good movie.
It was a good movie. I liked it. After his death, things started to get interesting for Elvis. I mean, he was dead. People were seeing him at places, and one place was actually in the airport in Memphis. And the one thing about it was that made it... This is probably one of the first ideas where people thought he faked his death. There was this guy that came in, and he was flying out from Memphis, and his name was John Burroughs, and that's what Elvis used to use when he would go into hotels and stuff like that, so people wouldn't know he was staying at the hotels. That was always the name. And back then, unfortunately, they didn't have passports, so they couldn't find out who this John Burroughs was, if it was really him or not. So that was one thing. And then when they had the funeral for him, it was an open casket, and the one thing about the casket was people were saying that it was heavier than it should have been, but they said that the body wasn't even his body that was in it. It was a wax body, and they said that they had allegedly was that there was a fan inside beneath the casket that was keeping the wax from melting, basically. And then they were saying that if you looked at the pictures, you could see there was sweat coming down his face and stuff like that. And when people die, they don't sweat anymore. So that was another reason why people thought he faked his death, because they thought it was a waxed body. And then he ended up getting buried into the local cemetery in Memphis first, and then he was buried next to his mom, and people were trying to get into his grave, and they were trying to find out if he was actually really alive or something like that, so they had to exhume his body and his mother's body, and they put them back into Graceland, and that's where they have the big funeral, that's where he's buried, in Graceland.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you want to say something?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the pictures, it looks more like him as a younger Elvis, not as the old.
That's
dirty
another
Elvis.
thing too. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
one too.
so I'm like, that looks like Elvis from the 50s, not the 70s.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I have a
Unless
point.
they did a
but
lot of plastic surgery.
Why would you do that?
I have a point, but I don't know if Greg's going to get to it. So,
Sorry, what was it?
I have another theory to the body.
Oh, you can say it. I don't have.
Okay, so I heard a theory that Elvis actually had a twin brother. The twin brother was mentally delusional and staying at a mental institution.
Huh?
When the plan had gone through to swap bodies, apparently they used his twin, who either recently passed away or, air quote, accidentally, allegedly just passed away. Like, oops, he choked.
Right.
Or, oops, he had a heart attack because we gave him this specific substance, which is also going to look like this chemical, and this chemical if they ever do an autopsy. So we'll put that body in there. The real Elvis can disappear from the spotlight and live out the rest of his life.
See, now I heard something about his twin. His twin actually died when they were born. Like, he was the one that was left. There was two. His twin died when they first were born.
Yeah,
See.
And the theory that says he had the twin that actually grew up was that they hid the twin because the twin was disabled,
Right.
and put him in a mental institute and didn't want the shame of people knowing that Elvis's brother was in an institute.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, like the conspiracy theories.
yeah,
like, these guys
exactly.
write these things great, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and like I said, I don't believe all of these things.
Yeah.
You can't. Some of them are just way too outlandish, for one. But I always like the different concepts of how these things make you think. Like, if anybody was going to fake their death, it'd be Andy Kaufman. And I do want to get into that one because that one goes pretty deep too. But with Andy Kaufman, he also said he was going to come back. And so far, he's late.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think Elvis, if he did fake his death, ever had a inkling to come back because he was in too deep with, like I was going to say, the CIA and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be talking about that shortly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So.
It's all you.
Yep.
Have at her.
All right.
Go ahead.
So there was other alleged
Don't let me
sightings
stop you.
as well that took place after Elvis died in Kalamazoo, Michigan, in the late 80s. Also in California, people thought they saw him at a Legoland, but it was, unfortunately, it was impersonators, Elvis impersonators. That's what they had there.
I just came here to get a new pirate ship.
Yeah, so who knew that Elvis loved Lego? It was his pastime when he allegedly passed away.
Do you have any fire trucks?
There was also a couple of specials that were on in the 90s. One was called about Elvis and about the conspiracy theories that he was alive. I actually watched the one last night. It was the Elvis Files one. Was
it sexy?
Oh yeah, it was sexy. But it was actually pretty funny just to watch it because I try to watch it with an open mind, just be like, well, maybe he is.
Well, like, even just to press the play button, you have to have an open mind because otherwise you're just like, no, he died in 77, let it go,
Yeah. I mean, like, the more I researched, the more I was kind of more open-minded about it because before, I remember when I was a kid, I would always see, like, when standing in the grocery store line, there's always be like an Elvis sighting or like Elvis is still alive.
Oh, the tabloid papers and stuff like that. Oh my God, those things were so bad.
Yeah.
I saw the one where it said like Bigfoot running for president. I'm like, how high are you guys? Because my God, like, when is that happening? Because he might get in at this time.
Oh yeah.
Like the candidate pool is kind of shallow.
Maybe Elvis will do it.
Allegedly.
I'll help you out, Americans.
Yeah. Well, he is. He really did want to help out America.
Well, you would have to fight in their war.
So,
I need a sewing thread.
So the other thing is why he. Another reason why he's faked his death, as you've been talking about, is he was an undercover agent for the DEA. Yeah. And he did actually write a letter to Nixon about wanting to help out. To be like, he wanted to be like an agent. And one of the reasons why he was wanted to do it was because he loved America. Like he loved being American. He thought that was probably the best thing that he could do to help America was to stop. He was saying like the drug use and stuff like that. That's what he wanted to go undercover for, that kind of thing.
He wants to stop the drug use by taking all the drugs and taking them for them.
He just wants to know where to get
Actually,
stuff.
you know, the whole CIA, DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency thing, isn't that far-fetched because of his military background.
Exactly.
So I could see him being into that.
And also, like, back then, a lot of celebrities were really in with the politicians. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, we covered that.
Right.
JFK, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, like, a lot of the times, CIA especially will pull people from military intelligence to do counterintelligence, to do undercover work. So it's not that far-fetched. And that would play into the whole fake death thing, because they might want to actually pull him out of the public eye, maybe change his face, and throw him back in the field, because maybe he was a really good agent. Who knows? Maybe the whole health stuff was just BS as a cover to set him up for his death. So it's not that far-fetched. This is actually probably more convincing than Michael Jackson, in my opinion. Don't come for me.
Well,
allegedly.
This one's not over yet either.
No, it's not.
So.
That's a good point. I like that. Yeah.
But also, okay, so to be fair, this conspiracy has had more time to brew and get more, like the bunny hole gets deeper over time. Right? So with Michael Jackson not being as long ago as Elvis Presley, for crying out loud, you know, it hasn't had time to brew.
Yeah. So when I was watching the special on, you can actually watch the Elvis files on YouTube if you want. I can send you the link to it if you want. You could maybe add it for the podcast when you want to, when we do this one, release it. As a bonus if they want to watch it. And there was this author on there. Her name was Gail Brewer Georgia, and she was an author of a book, Is Elvis Alive? And she really went back then in the 90s, or she did like a whole like looking up like through all the FBI documents and everything, and she thinks that Elvis was part of an undercover thing to get to stop the mafia from taking over the world, basically. Like, and he was.
It was a big thing back then.
Yeah. He was basically undercover, and they wanted him. He worked for the FBI, obviously, and basically what happened was he was trying to stop the racketeers from selling stuff and all that, and he was found out by them, and that's why he had to fake his death and everything, so he could live a somewhat normal life, because they had to put him in witness protection because of all that. So that was the reason.
Again, not far-fetched, because there is a mafia in the South called the Dixie Mafia. Not far-fetched. So I'm not seeing any evidence that dissuades these two theories, the DEA theory and this Dixie Mafia shit. So yeah, unless you've got something to debunk it, I can't debunk it. Not at this point.
There's more.
I know. So far, I'm leaning towards the dude faked it. He's probably dead by now, but I'm leaning towards that he faked it. He'd be in his 90s, honey. He'd be 89. So there's no way. There's no way.
Yep.
Keep going.
All right. So, but the other thing is, like, to debunk that is, like, there were, like, the FBI did release documents, and really there wasn't anything about Elvis. Like, they weren't really... They're
not going to release nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking, too.
They haven't released half the stuff from Area 51. You think they're going to release stuff about one of their best agents that might still be around?
Yeah, exactly.
Sarah? Allegedly.
Yes, so...
Be around.
The other big thing, and we get back to, like, Graceland, where he's buried, his tombstone. Allegedly, yes, where the wax figure has been melting.
You should just call this the alleged death of
Yes.
Elvis.
How many candles do you figure that make?
If you look on his on his tombstone, it says Elvis Aaron Presley, but they spell Aaron with 2 A's instead of 1 A, because that's how his father spelt his middle name, was with 1 A.
Yeah, but just a spelling error, because it's normally spelled with 2 A's.
Yes, but the thing is, like, Elvis always spelt it with an A. Like, that's how, yeah. And the conspirator series thinks that they did that on purpose, just because they know he's not dead, he's alive, kind of thing.
So, like, this was the A version.
Yeah.
The B version is still
Maybe
alive.
the A version is his twin brother.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of being a giant candle, it might actually just be his brother from the Institute.
Yeah, see, I didn't hear about that one.
Oh, you didn't hear about that?
No, so that's all new to me. So.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, yeah, so I don't know for sure. Yeah, so that's another reason that he faked his death. I mean, there's, like, so much stuff here that you just look through it and you're just like, yeah, you know, and I mean, like, there's still a lot of people that still think he's actually dead. So, I mean, allegedly dead.
I've seen several videos now where there's a pastor or a minister or some kind of man of God, and he looks like Elvis Presley would if he was 89 years old. He sings like Elvis Presley does. Mm-hmm. And there was another connection too. I didn't really watch them because I figured you'd tap on it. But there's... let me see if I can find it just to show Sarah. But yeah, if you have more, keep going.
Just some other facts about Elvis faking his death. He was appointed the sheriff deputy in Shelbury County. It was more than just an honorary position. He apparently took firearms tests and filled out a job application as part of the process. So, I mean, he took that seriously. So,
again,
yeah,
CIA training.
Yeah. As I mentioned before, he contacted President Nixon, and he basically named him as a special agent at large for the government. So, I mean, that's all in writing. There's a letter and everything that goes with it. So, which, I mean, could have been fake too, allegedly.
The
problem with Nixon is he a credible source, because Nixon had his own controversy surrounding him with Watergate. So you kind of have to look at it like, is Nixon really the person you want to believe over this? Right?
You did talk to President Carter, too.
Yeah, Carter's a good guy. Yeah. He's probably one of the best presidents. But I mean, like, doing the sheriff thing, he probably passed his firearms training, which he would have because of the military, but he also would have because of the CIA training. Going into WITSEC, he's going to change everything because he's going to stand out no matter what. So he would have had extensive plastic surgery to make him look exact opposite of him. Yeah. Because nobody's going to want that. Plus the millions and millions of Elvis impersonators just also fuels the fire for, oh, that's probably Elvis because he's too good to be an impersonator. But he's probably just a really damn good impersonator, especially in Vegas, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a good cover to go undercover with having so many impersonators around too. Yeah. So you've got the impersonators basically acting as a cover. You've probably had extensive plastic surgery to make you look different.
So that's Elvis on the one side and the pasture on the other.
So he's got the same facial features. Yeah, it could be. He also looks like Kenny Rogers, but
he really does. But
what I'm saying is that it is very plausible at this point in this podcast to actually say he could have easily have gone into WITSEC under CIA protection.
Yeah, and just disappeared for the rest of his life.
And you know what? None of the CIA, none of the FBI, none of the oh my God, what's the agency that handles fucking WITSEC? No, not DEA, not ATF. Crap is not coming to me. I don't know why it's not coming to me.
Too many letters.
Yeah. One of those agencies, anyways.
OMG?
No. Not OMG.
LOL?
Oh, no. AOL?
You've got mail.
Yeah, it's very possible. Very possible. So, I mean, yeah, all of this is very plausible.
See, this is why I like it when you listen to some of these weird ones, because then you actually get like a perspective that I've been looking into for a while, and you're like, huh. You know, I like those things that make you go, huh.
Yeah.
You know?
Back to that Elvis Vinyl special. They did have audio of allegedly him talking to the author of the book. She allegedly said that, she said that he allegedly called her, one night.
Marshals.
United States Marshals.
Okay, yeah.
What is?
The one
That would do.
over,
Oh.
Yeah. But anyways, they were having like a conversation, and she ended up taping it on the phone. And basically he was just saying how he's unrecognizable because he had to grow a beard and everything. And he says it sucks because he doesn't like the beard and things like that, because people would.
And the guy I just showed Sarah has a great big white beard.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's all this, you never know. He might have not have actually died on that day. You know, allegedly.
He might have just gotten too deep and had to disappear.
Yeah. I mean,
and not because necessarily that he wanted out of the spotlight, but because he got in too deep.
Yeah, exactly.
In other
he was really good at his job, apparently. Yeah. You know?
Well, anytime you have someone who was as big as Elvis,
yeah,
and say, for example, Elvis is going to play in Japan.
Right.
It's going to sell out there. Well, while Elvis is there, he can do some espionage work, and nobody's going to expect the king of rock and roll to be, you know, checking into certain people's financial statements or what have you. You know, who knows what, or, you know, drug trafficking and all that kind of stuff. So, like, yeah, it's a good cover. Be so famous that no one would expect it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, because you'd have in and out of any country you want.
At any time.
At any time. It's an excellent cover.
Yeah.
And the thing about my bringing this kind of perspective to it is because I watch a lot of fucking TV.
Yeah.
I do a lot of true crime. I get the whole thing, you know. I mean, I was at Fort Langley. I wasn't allowed near the CIA stuff, but, you know, I've been on the base. And it was like, just the feel of it. And it's like, I could see that happening. Especially with the fact that you're right. He could go in and out of any fucking country you want, do a show, do a little bit of ha ha ha, and, you know, because CIA
have a private
don't work on their own soil. They work internationally.
Private jet that you land at a small private airport.
And I bet you any money,
you know,
that Colonel Parker was probably his handler. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a CIA handler.
Like, why do you think they never stopped selling his stuff?
Yeah.
And why all of a sudden it became like, now you're getting it on T-shirts and stuff like that.
But because of his high profile and being so famous and recognizable, he would have to have extensive plastic surgery to change his appearance.
Yeah, or grow a beard.
Not even that. Like, he's got a certain facial structure. Like, it's, I don't want to say flat face, but it is almost flat faced, you know? It would stand out. So he'd probably actually end up getting some probably cheek implants to make him less flat looking.
Yeah.
Actually, my cousin Joe played Elvis at Theater Aquarius, I think, in one of the shows.
Oh. And
my cousin Joe actually does kind of have a Elvis-esque look to him because he's also got that flat kind of face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it's It's pretty recognizable. So you would have to change. You would have to change it extensively.
Well,
probably
also,
the nose and add cheekbones.
Also, this small town that he lives in, apparently, like, it's so small that, like, there's, like, 10 people in his church, maybe, kind of thing, you know. Not a big congregation or anything like that. And he doesn't obviously go by Elvis. Lives on a farm.
Yeah, probably milks cows.
You know?
Yeah, if he's still...
Well, probably
allegedly
doesn't
alive.
milk cows anymore because he's 89 if he's alive or something, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you could still do church stuff at that age. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure he's still... If he's still able to do stuff, like...
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically all I have for
Well, we're at 40
Elvis.
minutes, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him, although it would be really hard to hide this well for this long. Would be the other side of it, I would think.
Yeah.
You know, that's a long fucking time. Since 1977 you've been hiding?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. A lot of people have been asking, like, why wouldn't he, if he's still alive now, which may not be true, I mean, like, allegedly, if he's still alive right now, wouldn't he be okay to get out witness protection now? Because...
No.
No?
No, because if he did, like, bigger espionage against other countries, some of those other countries still remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, for example, if he was spying on the Japanese during the Second World War.
Okay.
Someone might want to know about that.
Yeah.
You know, things like... He wouldn't have been around during the Second World War. What, he was Vietnam time?
He was barely 10. He was born at the start of it.
Yeah. Oh, he was born at the start of the war, Second World War. So what war did he serve in? The Vietnam? Korean. Okay.
Well, that would have been, like, the big one. Yeah.
Either way, all war is bad.
Yeah.
War never changes.
Mm-hmm. Really good topic. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We hope you enjoyed yourself this evening. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and meet us back here next week for something completely different. Have a good one.